Welcome back to my channel. With me today I have a video by Robert Martin, who is pretty passionate about human rights and especially those in Palestine. Now Robert in his video shares how he kept on saying things that just didn't add up, specifically in the media and paper, always saying something that has made Israel get away from being held accountable for many years. Now many are the times that people used to say that Israel versus Palestine war is complicated, not until the 7th of October that brought out a lot of things to light, all because people developed keen interest in wanting to know what really this war that has been ongoing for years now is all about. So people began reading and doing some research, and you will agree with me that what was always written in the papers and media about Palestinians always tagged Palestinians as terrorists, while Israel was always defending themselves, which took a turning point. Immediately people started to develop keen interest in this war. And according to Martin Robert, after talking to Palestinians and taking a trip there, what he saw there shocked him, and it is for this reason why he came back a different person and vowed to help the Palestinian cause. Check out what he found out in this video as he explains a lot of things. I will be right back.
Hello, my name is Robert Martin and I'm pretty passionate about human rights, and especially those in Palestine, the Palestinian human rights. Now before I actually get started, I should make everyone aware that there's nothing significant that brought me to the Palestinian plight. I'm not Jewish, I'm not Palestinian, I'm not Arab, I'm not Muslim. I'm an atheist who started seeing things that just didn't add up. I started seeing things in the media and the paper always saying that Palestinians would, and also that Israel was always defending itself. And then the last Gaza strike a number of years ago, I started to really read. I read about what was happening and I reached out to a lot of people in Palestine. People then used to say, you've got no idea, you've never been, you've never seen. So I actually went over a number of years ago and was shocked with what I saw, absolutely shocked. It came back a different person and vowed to help the Palestinian cause for the rest of my life. I went over again only a few months ago and thought I knew a lot of it, but I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked at what I saw. A number of things that I witnessed. I went to a few refugee camps. Now the fact that there's refugee camps within Palestine, in their own country, should alarm anybody that has any idea or no idea of what's going on, because it's not right. I spent time in Ada refugee camp. Ada refugee camp is in Bethlehem, not far from Jerusalem. None of those people can actually go to Jerusalem. They're not allowed to. Their ID cards don't allow them to go. One particular gentleman I spoke to had a scholarship to go to Jerusalem University. The fact was that he didn't have an ID to get in there, so he snuck in. The university said, "How did you get here?" He told them the truth. So automatically they actually said, "You can't come," and he can't study in that side of town again. I spoke to so many children in the refugee camps and I was heartbroken with what I saw and what I heard. These refugee camps aren't very big. 4 out of 7 nights the IDF will come through round about 6 a.m. to this particular camp, 6 a.m. in the morning. They don't knock on doors, they kick them in. There's anywhere between 50 and 100 soldiers. The reason they do this is because they don't want the Palestinians to rest. They don't want them to sleep at night. They don't want them to have joy. They don't want them to have their children to stay innocent. Some of these soldiers come with face painting for war. You think they're going out to a war zone. They're leaving their homes at night, getting in to tanks, jeeps. They've got M16s, all made in America. They have stun grenades, pepper spray, tears. And they go into these homes and they rip out of bed. They take these kids away from their parents. Some of these kids are 14 under. We never hear about them until there is a particular family or a particular situation where the world thinks that they need to actually start listening. Well, the fact is this happens every single day. Every day I met kids that had been, these kids are timid kids, they're not rough kids, but these kids have seen their mums and their dads, their brothers, their cousins, either murdered, smashed, seen their mums used, seen their mums be spawned, and these kids can't do anything, they don't have any weapons. Occasionally they will throw stones. I would. They can get 20 years for doing this, for 20 years for throwing stones. And these are kids that are getting demonized, abused. A human being needs to see light at the end of the tunnel. A human being needs to have passion and hope. Well, Israel doesn't want any of the Palestinians to have this. They call every single Palestinian a terrorist. How do I know this? Because I spent time with a professor, Nurit Peled Elian, who had written a book on the Israeli education system. And I did an interview, and please look it up, it's Robert Martin and Nurit, because she told me that from the age of 3, the Israeli education system is geared to make the Palestinians look as though they are encroaching on their land. In all of the education books in Israel, there's no West Bank. It's Judea and Samaria, which is God gave them that land. So if you teach your children from that early age that this is my land and the Palestinians are what are they going to do when they get it? They go in there and all these children, these Palestinian kids that are like you and I. These Palestinian kids want to live. Palestinians do not want charity. The Palestinians just want what you and I want, which is to be left alone, to either have Christmas or any way that they celebrate, to have birthday parties, to be able to attend a funeral without being shot at. Because the amount of times that the funerals are attacked by Israel is numerous. They don't even allow the Palestinians to grieve. I spoke to soldiers. I spoke to young Israeli Jewish kids in Jerusalem. I asked, what do you think of Palestinians? And the answers that I got made me sick. The answers I got were, what are Palestinians? What is Palestine? They stink, they smell. And I asked all of them, have you spent time with one? Why would I do that? Why would I do that, these guys say? Well, the day to refugee camp, they come in at 6. Let me tell you what they do at the rest of the Palestinian areas, the West Bank. They come in between 2 and 3 in the morning. 2 and 3 in the morning, anywhere between 20, 40, up to 100 soldiers. They will kick the door in. Mum and Dad will get up. They'll take them out. They remove them from the house, they fold them. And they handcuff them. This is against international law. But why does Israel have to come in between 2 and 3 in the morning? It's pretty obvious. Because they want to intimidate them, demonize them, scare them, and have them living on edge. They want the Palestinians to resist so they can. And this is what continually happens. I also was told, and I've Googled it since, Israelis, the Palestinians, do not serve much time in jail at all. They either get let off, or they'll spend a little bit of time at home. The government will actually lobby to have them out. They do not spend much time in jail. So they go up from growing as young kids from the age of 3 that Palestinians are on their own land, that Palestinians are living in Judea and Samaria, and all they want to do is us. Then they get given a... And when they're Palestinian, they get let off, or they become a hero. They become a hero for Palestinians. You tell me who the heroes are. What are the Palestinians to do? They go to the courts, they go to the UN, they try anything. Yes, they did do violence many, many years ago, but what would you do? I know what I would do. If I had seen my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, or had my land stolen, had my house taken, and then I'm blamed for being it. Administrative detention is another thing that they do to these kids. And there's some pretty high-profile ones in jail at the moment. One slapped a soldier. And it's funny to hear the pro-Israel side say, oh my goodness, you slapped a soldier. The question to be asked is, why is the soldier there? It's a Palestinian area. It is deemed Palestinian. Nabi Salah. I spent time with a family. Bassem Tamimi and his family. 3 of those 4 people are in jail today. One will have another court case tomorrow, which is New Year's Eve. They're going to keep extending that. They have had people in the Knesset And the Knesset, for those that don't know, is the government. So they're government, they're politicians. And they've actually called for, they should spend the rest of their life in jail. These are, that's no good. One of the reporters, one of the biggest reporters over there, has actually written saying that basically they should, these are kids. These are kids. And so it's really easy to look. If you look at both sides, one is occupying the other. One wants their freedom. The other wants their land and without them in there. I went over there with an open mind a couple of years ago because I really wanted to learn the truth. I travelled all through the West Bank. I travelled with Jewish people as well. And the reason I have to put there is there's a lot of people saying, oh my goodness, the Jews can't go through there. They can go through there.
Now, since 1948, some 450,000 Palestinian refugees have registered in Lebanon. Though still registered there, many have since moved on to third countries in search of better opportunities. Of the refugees who are still in the country, more than half are living in overcrowded refugee camps surrounded by poor Lebanese communities. In some of these camps, Syrian refugees have also moved in, adding to the space and resource pressures. Now, the 12 Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon were meant to provide temporary housing, but 70 years later, hundreds of thousands of stateless Palestinians still live in crumbling camps. Residents of these Palestinian refugee camps face staggering rates of joblessness, violence, and disgraceful housing conditions. They often refer to themselves as forgotten people and feel a sense of isolation and neglect. For most, comfort and privacy are elusive luxuries. Young Palestinians have few prospects for finding a job or leading a fulfilling life. Now, in Palestine, refugees living in the camps face overcrowding, high levels of unemployment, and a lack of school and public infrastructure. Movement is restricted and travel permits are hard to obtain, leaving many refugees unable to access the resources they need. Food insecurity is widespread, with many families struggling to support themselves on extremely low income. More than 2 million Palestinian refugees live in Jordan. Due to statelessness, psychological trauma, interrupted education, and poverty, many of these refugees lack professional and educational opportunities. Access to healthcare is also limited, forcing many refugees to travel for treatment or forgo care altogether. Now, many of the programs in Lebanon are based in Palestinian refugee camps. Some of the staff live in the camps themselves. They work with community-based organizations to determine the most pressing issues and respond with long-term solutions. Now, the status of Palestinian exiles in Arab host states has had a fraught history since 1948, and in the region today, their lives differ dramatically depending on their place of residence. In Jordan, for example, most of the 1.5 million Palestinians have citizenship and are well integrated socially and economically, although some 278,678 are still living in camps. Unlike Jordan, Syria has maintained the stateless status of its Palestinians, but has afforded them the same economic and social rights enjoyed by Syrian citizens. Now, according to a 1956 law, Palestinians are treated as if they are Syrians in all matters pertaining to the rights to employment, work, commerce, and national obligations. As a consequence, Palestinians in Syria do not suffer from massive unemployment or underemployment, and only about 111,208 refugees live in camps. At the same time, Palestinians, like Syrian citizens, remain under a powerful state system in which basic civil and political rights such as freedom of expression and association are tightly controlled, and a state of emergency in force since 1963 grants broad unchecked powers to a vast security apparatus. In Lebanon, sharp contrast, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are stateless and over half live in overcrowded camps. Now, the right to work is severely restricted and massive poverty has become the norm. The situation of the Palestinians in Lebanon deteriorated steadily in the wake of the expulsion of the PLO following the 1982 Israeli invasion. Now, by some accounts of the 375,218 Palestinians registered as refugees with UNRWA in Lebanon, only some 200,000 remain. Others have fled from the inhospitable conditions that successive Lebanese governments have sustained over the last 2 decades. Initially, the response of host Arab states to the incoming Palestinian refugees was to offer them refuge on the assumption that it would be temporary. When it became obvious that the problem would be protracted, the policies of Arab states toward the refugees changed, and the initial sympathy was coupled with an insistence on Israel's ultimate responsibility responsibility for them. As a result, most Arab governments refugees changed, and the initial sympathy was coupled with an insistence on Israel's ultimate responsibility for them. As a result, most Arab governments strongly opposed resettlement and naturalization of the refugees. Instead, they adopted policies and procedures aimed at preserving the Palestinian identity of the individuals and their status as refugees. Now, Egypt is the only Arab host country that is a state party to the 1951 Convention relative to the status of refugees. However, in September 1965, the Council of Foreign Ministers of the League of Arab States formally acknowledged certain rights for Palestinians by signing the Protocol for the Treatment of Palestinians in Arab States, known as the Casablanca Protocol. Now, this brief document called upon member states to take the necessary measures to guarantee to Palestinians full residency rights, freedom of movement within and among Arab countries, and the right to work on a par with citizens. But the protocol's good intentions clashed with subsequent developments on the ground. UNHCR notes that as the Palestinian nationalist movement came into conflict with the governments of the Arab states, the legal status of the Palestinians diminished. As a result, few Palestinians in the Arab world now enjoy a secure right to remain in their country of residence. For example, as the Palestinian liberation movement gained momentum, this created political and sovereignty tensions within some host countries. Now, Palestine refugees are defined as persons whose normal place of residence was Palestine during the period 1st June 1946 to 15 May 1948, and who lost both home and means of livelihood as a result of the 1948 conflict. Now, nearly one-third of the registered Palestine refugees, more than 1.5 million individuals, live in 58 recognized Palestine refugee camps in Jordan, Lebanon, the Syrian Arab Republic, the Gaza Strip, and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. A Palestine refugee camp is defined as a plot of land placed at the disposal of UNRWA by the host government to accommodate Palestine refugees and set up facilities to cater to their needs. Now, in the aftermath of the hostilities of June 1967 and the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, 10 camps were established to accommodate a new wave of displaced persons, both refugees and non-refugees. The remaining two-thirds of registered Palestine refugees live in and around the cities and towns of the host countries and in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, often in the environs of official camps. We have come to the end of the video. Feel free to share your take on Robert Martin's video and what he was talking about in his video. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video.